You might be thinking, this guy, with thousands of hours in Breath of the Wild, hundreds of hours in Tears of the Kingdom, 30 million plus views in Zelda content, the grandfather of Breath of the Wild advanced combat, would be at the ringside of arguably the biggest game of 2023, Tears of the Kingdom, and have it be my game of the year. But instead, my pick is Baldur's Gate 3. How? I've literally never even played a proper CRPG. I'm not even a PC gamer. I barely touch mouse and keyboard. So what the hell prompted this 180 pivot for me? Let's scrub back to April 30th, 2023. Before it was even the release month of Tears of the Kingdom, 13 days before launch, I was already watching the end credits roll. Honest to the title, tears were rolling after such a powerful ending to a game, and I was thinking to myself, there really isn't much of an argument. This is my game of the year. It was set in stone. I took a quick glance at the rest of the games releasing this year, glossing right over Baldur's Gate 3, and thought, and unless some other insane game shadow dropped, I might as well start writing my piece now so I don't have to think about it later. Zelda, specifically the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom series, has been a core part of my life and my job, which is strange to say. I get paid to play Zelda. Well, okay, it's not quite as simple as that, but a part of my job is to literally research the game to the bone and find the most interesting facts and possibilities people didn't know about. I've smuggled a sand seal out of the Gerudo Desert for 4 hours just to prove that sand seals have been programmed to be used on any sandy surface in the game, not just the desert. I've fully broken down and explained arguably the coolest Zelda combat clip on YouTube. I've restarted an entire file just to capture 5 seconds of this rare interaction in Tears of the Kingdom. You get the picture. All of this to say, I wouldn't do this because it's just my job. I genuinely do love this amazing series to bits. So, hot off the heels of finishing Final Fantasy XVI, I was given a code to Baldur's Gate 3, and just told to capture some footage. I'm not gonna lie, I had to Google what the hell a Baldur's Gate even was. Not only was it not on my radar, but I don't think I've even heard of the IP until one of the earlier trailers came out. Every early access opening must have flown right over my head. On top of that, the last PC game I seriously played with a mouse and keyboard was Fallout New Vegas, but a top-down point-and-click game? StarCraft 1. Yeah, like the original, like 1998. Let's just say I felt like I was the wrong person to be playing this game, clearly the last person to label themselves as PC Master Race. I knew controller support was there, but I knew mouse and keyboard was the way to go, so I stuck to my guns and flopped at the controls like a newborn lamb. But slowly over the course of the next several hours, not only did Baldur's Gate quickly get me up to speed on the controls and how the world works, but during this time I'm working in an environment where I'm surrounded by coworkers playing the same game. And I remember a similar concept I remember having during my time with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which is the concept of a kind of playground talk. It's a concept where a game has such a variety of combinations of quests overlapping, reactions to your choices, and immersive sim elements that people start telling their own stories of what happened to them during their adventures. Then you start to share your secrets that you've uncovered, interactions you never thought about, and cool tricks you can pull off to up your game. The concept of not only becoming stronger by brute forcing your way through bigger numbers and leveling up, but also being continually armed with seemingly unending knowledge is what made Baldur's Gate 3 such an incredible game to play. Children love to flock around ravens. You can pickpocket a merchant mid-conversation if you switch to a different character, fling important characters into oblivion by accidentally pressing a switch, take a magic-sapping Susser Bloom from the Underdark, reverse pickpocket an enemy and have them handicapped to never be able to cast magic. You can freeze blood, use webs as a landing cushion, use silence and fog to murder out in public without alerting anyone, and have an easier time passing checks against Goblin if you're a drow, because they're seemingly racist to everyone else. Everyone has their specific weak spot for what they're looking for in a game, but for me, that weak spot is attention to detail. It's as if the game is talking back, having a conversation with you. You do something in the world, mundane or specific, and it responds. It has an answer. This system of feeding your curiosity, combined with the show don't tell mentality, can be one of the most potent ways to give power to the player and make the world more immersive. Players not only enjoy finding these secrets and pushing the world's boundaries, but of course love sharing these details too. The scale of work in this respect is not only in these small details, but also in the absolute insanity of having an answer for almost every story path. Whether you were solo or in a party, what race you were, what class you were, what skills and items you had, what quest flags you've set off, the world just seemed to reverberate back with, yes, we've thought of this situation. There are so many things I could gush over, but in short, I could just hear Baldur's Gate 3 saying, we want to push the limit, past our normal RPG. Tears of the Kingdom has this too. After all, it's been my job to search up all the deepest secrets, lore, and facts about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that most players never come across, and I've seen how amazing the world of Hyrule really is. But at some point, I think I started looking back and putting a magnifying glass on other aspects of Tears of the Kingdom, which I wouldn't have done if Baldur's Gate 3 or another amazing game didn't come along. It was enough for me to reevaluate my own feelings with the game. Maybe even getting jealous that my favorite game series didn't have a couple of these nice traits from this amazing RPG. Shoot, maybe it was the other way around, with Tears of the Kingdom looking at me, green with envy, seeing me check out Baldur's Gate 3. Either way, this was enough for me to get introspective about what I've valued in a game from this year. As an analytical gamer, especially with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, someone who tests interactions with various combinations, looks through spreadsheets, combs over data on object maps, and reads lines of code for hours, it's actually hard to articulate my feelings properly and discuss Tears of the Kingdom to other games when I'm so dedicated to the series. That's also to say that on the other side, I played Baldur's Gate 3 pretty casually just like many other games this year. I jammed my way through Hi-Fi Rush, hit the end of the road in Octopath Traveler 2, hacked and slashed my way through Wolong and Final Fantasy 16, S-ranked Armored Core 6 missions, and baited some reversals in Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6, giving them their just desserts for a bad read. I even finished Starfield, although that game was death by 1,000 cuts, my god. But somehow, Baldur's Gate 3 always stuck in the back of my mind, nagging me to double-click that launcher, reminding me that it was something I didn't know I could appreciate, a world and systems that were, before this year, alien to me, including a mouse and keyboard, which I've been preferring over plugging in a controller, which for me is like f***ing weird. On a more simple plate, you can just line these two games up side by side and say I like the quests more in Baldur's Gate 3 because the rewards are better and the stories are more interactive, or I like the main narrative, minus the delivery, way better in Tears of the Kingdom because of its powerful iconography and amazing twists, and both combat systems in each game were astounding in their own ways, blah blah blah. But to compare these systems side by side is not really fair to either game. It's an apples to oranges situation. These games are not of the same genre and have vastly different ways they approach their game design. So, as a person whose job and dedication is to Zelda, my gut choice for 2023 is Baldur's Gate 3. The fact that Baldur's Gate 3 had such an uphill climb to sway my decision is what surprised me the most. With half my content creating career dedicated to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it seems like making this choice is almost a sort of betrayal, a breakup even. But that's not true at all. While Tears of the Kingdom may not have been my number 1, it is undoubtedly my close number 2. Sure to have taken my personal Game of the Year spot if it weren't for some other third gate of Baldur to pop up out of nowhere and snatch my heart away instead.